going, guys? Today I wanted to do a video on buying a used horse trailer. Some of the things to look out for, as well as some tips that I've learned and some suggestions that I just want to pass on to you. Now, one of the first things you want to look at when buying a used horse trailer is what your tow vehicle is. What type of hitch do you have on it? Do you plan to install a different hitch? So the truck in front of you is a 2004 Dodge Ram 1500. I installed a gooseneck hitch on it, so we do have that gooseneck hitch option, as well as it does have a regular bumper pull hitch. So we have those two options. Now, secondly, another thing to consider with tow vehicle that's very important is what is your towing capacity. A way to find out the towing capacity is look up the make and model of the truck or car, and look up online what the towing capacity is, or you could call the dealer. Probably better to look it up online. But for this specific truck, it's got the Hemi in it. It has 8,000 pounds towing capacity. This trailer is a 4,000 pound trailer unloaded. All steel construction. Technically it's 480. So anyway, I have a 4,000 pound trailer. That's half my towing capacity right there. And this trailer itself is a 3-horse slant. So you throw, you figure each horse is going to be roughly 1,200 pounds. So you're looking at 3,600 pounds. So I'm going to be very close to capacity with gear, possibly slightly over, but the majority of my towing, there will not be 3 horses in here, normally 2. It's just nice to have that extra option. Okay, so we've gone over tow vehicle. Next I'm going to go over bumper pull versus gooseneck. The first trailer we purchased was a bumper pull, and it did alright, but in all honesty, after towing around this gooseneck, I much prefer gooseneck, and I definitely recommend it as a better hitch option. The biggest issue I have with a bumper pull is the truck pivots on that rear axle right there, and the hitch for the bumper pull is behind that pivot point. So when you go and make a left turn, let's say you're making a left turn with your truck, the pivot point again is behind, or in the center of this rear axle. When you go to make a left turn, the rear end of your truck is going to go right. So when you're taking somewhat tight turns at decent speeds, it causes sway. So that's one main factor to look at, as opposed to a gooseneck where the hitch of the trailer is always positioned over that center pivot point. So the trailer is obviously going to handle better. Second thing with bumper pull versus gooseneck is the weight. Now, when you have the gooseneck hitch installed, it's going to be more towards the center of the truck. I mean, obviously, it's pretty much going to be a little bit in front of the axles, which is a good thing. And that's going to allow the truck to handle better. I'm trying to do the best to explain this. I'm no expert, but this is just from my experience and my knowledge. And the problem with a bumper pull is, opposed to having the weight back here, where it's more spread out evenly throughout the truck, it extends beyond that rear axle, so that in turn is weighting down the rear of the truck more, and lifting up the front end perhaps slightly, which causes it to handle not as well. So overall, if you can, I would recommend a gooseneck hitch. One other thing I'd like to note upon with gooseneck trailers: some people take issue with them if you have a short bed truck. The issue that people run into is if you have a full width nose. On this specific trailer, the nose is smaller, so I don't have any problems making nearly 180 degree pitches when turning and backing up this trailer. But if you have a wider nose, you may have a problem where you can only angle the trailer so much on the truck before the front nose of the trailer comes close, if not into contact with your rear window. I know they do make a couple products to correct this if you do have a wide nose. They do make they do make a hitch for your actual trailer that will extend forward, so that will give you more clearance. And additionally, they do make a gooseneck ball that extends further back, so that gives you more clearance when you're turning with the truck. So with the gooseneck trailer and a short bed truck, you really can't go wrong. Again, I mean, if you do need to make tight turns on a constant basis, then you could always fetch those adapters, and that'll give you more clearance for turning. Okay, now that we've gone over tow vehicle and the type of hitches, and the one that I personally prefer, next thing to examine is the actual trailer that you have deemed suitable for your tow vehicle and your general application. So the biggest thing to consider is, what do you plan to do with the trailer? Do you need it just to transport, or do you want something nice that you can take to horse shows? In all honesty, if you're looking for a horse trailer on a budget, you know, it's going to need a lot of work. This trailer in front of you, it was purchased for, I believe, $2,300, if I remember correctly, and I find that to be a very fair price for the trailer. But in contrast, it needs a lot of work. I'll go over all that in a minute. But me personally, I have a lot of mechanical experience. I know how to weld. I know how to do basic body work. I'm not an expert in painting, but it's something I can learn, and the wonderful world of YouTube can offer tutorials on how to do pretty much most of the steps that I'm doing in order to restore this trailer. So to start, let's go over from front to back here. One of the most important things to examine, obviously, is the hitch. This trailer, I believe, is a 1995, all steel. Another thing I want to say, I honestly prefer steel over aluminum. Aluminum trailers may be a little more low maintenance, but I prefer the strength of steel. I prefer it to be heavier. The other advantage with an aluminum trailer is just it's a little bit lighter. However, I don't have the ability to weld. I don't have the right tools to weld aluminum at this point anyway. So again, I prefer all steel. So what I've done, I've taken the ball out of my gooseneck hitch, and I've placed it on the hitch to the trailer. And now what I'm doing, I'm just inspecting how much play there is in the ball. There's no side to side or back to front movement. There's just a little bit of up and down movement, which is fine. There's a little bit of wear here, but overall it's in good condition, and I feel comfortable enough to tow my horses with that. Obviously, you want to make sure everything's working. Everything right now is a little tight. Spring's a little rusted. Could use some grease down in that shaft. Same thing right here. But overall, the hitch is in good condition. Especially when you're inspecting the hitch and going throughout the trailer, you want to inspect all your structural welds. I mean, all the welds look fine. Safety chains, they're a little bit rusty, but they're all there. With this trailer specifically, because I'm doing a full restoration, you know, just for a little peace of mind, I'm obviously going to have to be replacing the breakaway system. Yeah, so moving on. Also, when you're inspecting that hitch, you also just want to plug in your trailer wiring, which is right there. And you want to inspect all the lighting, the brake lights. With this trailer, I've taken them all off. I'm going to be doing a restoration again, and I'm going to do all LED. It's a little bit brighter, less draw. But yeah, I mean, if you don't plan to do any restoration, you want to be sure that all your lights are working. And also, another important thing, if you have the ability to, I would highly recommend taking the trailer for a test drive to see how it tows. Make sure you're comfortable with it. And another important thing, pretty much all horse trailers have brakes, and it's important to test the brakes. And the way to test the brakes is when you're towing the trailer on all or if you don't already have a trailer brake controller, you're going to need one, or to get one installed. And in order to test the trailer brakes, you want to go maybe 20 miles an hour. You don't want to go too fast, as you may lock up the brakes at a high speed, which you don't want to do. So on all trailer brake controllers, they have this manual brake control valve. This is especially important if your trailer's starting to fishtail and you're going at a high rate of speed, or you know, there's certain scenarios where you need to use it. And this will apply only brake to the trailer. So if you're fishtailing on a wet road, that'll brake the trailer, and it will allow the trailer to become under control. So again, you know, you just want to go around 20 miles an hour and pull that. And what you should feel like someone's pulling on the back of your truck with a rope. So that's a good way to test that the brakes are working. So after you've plugged it in, hopefully taken it for a test drive, make sure all your lights are working, inspected the hitch. You'll also want to take a good look at the landing gear, you know, make sure everything's working properly. There's a little bit of wear here, you know, but nothing too big. It's all perfectly functional. I want to inspect underneath the trailer. Is everything there structurally? Obviously it's rusty, but everything is structurally sound. It's just surface rust. You know, the flooring's all good. Looks like these boards were replaced probably within the past 8 years. You want to inspect your suspension components. Moving on, you know, inspect for any major signs of rust. Alright, so moving on to tires. You want to make sure you thoroughly inspect your tires. You want to check for signs of uneven wear. On this trailer specifically, there's pretty even tread wear. If there's uneven wear, that likely means that there's either a problem with the suspension, the bearing. By the way, whenever purchasing a used trailer, especially an older one, you always want to replace the bearings, which isn't that hard. But yeah, so it could be suspension, the bearing, or possibly the axle. So I'm just going to give you a peek behind here. I know you can't see it too well, but I mean, there is some rust, but it's all mainly surface rust. It's, you know, it's nothing that I can't handle. And again, that's something to look at when you're purchasing a trailer, is if you want to do a full restoration and you want to make it look nice, is this something you can handle? I'll show you real quick what I'm doing, what I have done thus far. Remove some of the decaling throughout the side here, and I will be doing a series of videos on the process of fully restoring a trailer, or the exterior anyway. I think I'm going to hold off on the interior. Yeah, on this roof line there was some pretty decent rust pitting, so what I did, I went through and I sanded that down to bare metal, and I started to Bondo it. So yeah, that's just some of the things I've done this far, and you know, obviously everything's going to need to be sanded down, and so it has a long way to go. So now you're looking at the back here, you can obviously see that this rear panel is fully rusted through. So obviously this is going to need to be replaced if you want it to look nice. Functionally, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, honestly, you could leave it the way it is. I just think it looks kind of bad. But I mean, operationally, it doesn't affect the trailer in any way. So yeah, moving on to the back here. I used to have a drop-down gate on my previous trailer, and man, that was a pain in the butt. It did have a helper spring underneath, but it was shot pretty much, and I never got around to fixing it. But if you do purchase a new trailer, I would definitely recommend a swinging gate. That way you're not killing your back. The only disadvantage to a swinging gate is your horses are going to have to step up. And if you have good horses, that shouldn't be much of a problem. Very important to inspect the latch. Now here's something that I caught with this trailer. This is the primary latch, and this is just your secondary backup latch. So when I pull on this door, it shouldn't open at all until I pull that secondary latch. Now you see how that just opened? It should not do that. The way this latch specifically works is this is supposed to catch on, where is it? It's supposed to catch on this lip right here. But as you can tell, this is worn down to the point where it's not catching anymore. So, you know, it's the little things like that. I'll give you a top view here and you can see how that's been chiseled down. So that's going to need to be fixed. I may have to bend that back a little bit and build up some more weld there. But yeah, I mean, if you forgot to ever throw on your secondary latch, you know, you could have a horse falling out the back and you don't want that. Alright, so now I'm going to start inspecting the inside. Paint's pretty good. You know, there's some rust up top. Nothing structurally, it's just taking the paint off. I don't think I'm going to worry about painting the inside right now because, you know, it's in pretty decent condition. If you do have the option to tow the trailer, it would be good to have yourself or someone be in the back of the trailer. Rick Gore from Think Like a Horse also recommended this, and I fully agree with him. Just so you get an idea of what the horse may be experiencing noise-wise. So if you hear if I just jump up and down, you know, there's a little bit of rattling. Because I have this slant load, the way this locks is it has this pin, and that slides forward. There's a little bit of movement in here, and you know, if you take a big bump, it's going to rattle a little bit. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to hopefully or possibly dampen this. There's a piece of plastic here which really doesn't do much. I mean, this is a big piece of sheet metal, so some of this is going to be unavoidable, but if you know your horses well, you know, just get them used to the trailer. If you do decide to purchase a trailer so they're accustomed to the noises, you know, put them in there, bounce around, make some noise, make sure they're comfortable prior to taking them out, so when you take your first bump they don't start freaking out. Now honestly, when you know, alright, so I mean, again, you just want to make sure that everything's functioning properly. All my latches are working properly. That spring's a little loose, could use a new spring, but it still works fine. You want to make sure this sliding pin works. You want to make sure this slides out properly and locks in. I'm not going to go through that because I've already done it. You know, inspect the hitch from the back side. That's interesting. I guess that's the switch for the outside lighting. I do enjoy automotive wiring, if you can't tell from all the lights on that beast. So I am going to go a little crazy with lighting in this trailer. I want to do LED lights in the back, but you know, if you don't have the skill set to do automotive wiring, it's fairly simple. You know, there's a ton of YouTube videos to learn how to do it. So obviously, I want to do LED lights on the back, and anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here on what I plan to do with this trailer. Yeah, so when you have a step-up trailer, it's always nice, or rather important, to have some type of matting so your horses don't hit their shins on the steel on the back. So there's a nice piece of rubber here to protect your horses. It's a little loose. It's going to need a new set of bolts. You want to inspect all your hinges. These are pin barrel hinges. They all have grease fittings. You want to make sure you grease them up. Make sure that they sit even with each other. If one's kind of offset, that means you have a worn out hinge. And another way you're going to be able to tell that is when you're sliding this back in. If it starts to hit on the bottom, you know, that could be a sign that you're going to need new hinges on your door. You know, just inspect the structural integrity. This is just paint and a little bit of rust. You know, structurally this trailer is all here. Just going to loop around to the other side. Again, with this panel, you can see the rust is starting to come through, so on this side too I'm going to need to replace this rear panel. Again, inspecting the tires on the other side for any uneven wear. You want to inspect the fenders. Fenders are pretty important because with this trailer you have this stock trailer type of opening slots in the side. So you want to make sure that no debris is flinging up on your horses. Yeah, and the other nice thing about this trailer is it does have a little bit of a tack room, a place if you want to throw a bed up there. So, I mean, this is pretty decent in here. So yeah, I think in the beginning of this video I really covered all the main things to look for and tips when buying a used trailer. Just one other thing before I end this video. When you're inspecting the tires, I recommend looking at the numbers on the tire. The numbers on the tire will represent the size of the tire. And it's a good idea to take a look at your spare tire. Just make sure that those numbers match up. That way, you know, in the event of an emergency that you'd have to change a tire, you do have the same size tire so you can still safely move on to a service station where you can get that tire replaced. So I hope this video has helped some of you in deciding if a trailer is right for you and some of the things to look out for when purchasing a used trailer. If you have any more questions or comments, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.